I'm super happy to have everyone here. This is our first Enactus Forum. Last year we had the Partner Summit series, and this year we're having a 6-episode series called the Enactus Forum, where we bring together our partners to share business insights with us, with our Enactus community. And that includes both other partners, students, and faculty. And we record these and save these sessions and send them out. So folks who aren't here today are still going to get to see what's happening. And we invited some teams today. So I will go ahead and introduce them after we hear from our panelists and have them say hello. But yeah, welcome. So let's go to the first slide before we get started with our official session. We want to share. Well, not that slide, the next slide. We want to share our exciting activities that we are just counting down the days until Expo, which happens next month at University of Texas, Dallas. Needed to lead off with this. This is our signature event of the year. We're hoping to have 60 teams in attendance, competing, collaborating, getting to know each other and networking. We're bringing together many of our corporate partners. Many alums are going to be there, both judging and volunteering and supporting kind of the next gen of students who are coming up right now and competing. So we're really excited about this. If you're in the Dallas area and haven't yet signed up to attend, we would love to have you attend, depending on who you are, either as a judge or as a competing team. So that's my plug for this. This is kind of the one time where we don't have to talk about what we do. We can show what we do, and that is way more effective than just hearing about it. So hope that everybody on this call can make it. And also exciting is our World Cup. So Expo leads to World Cup, and the winning team from Expo will join winning teams from around the world in our World Cup, which is going to be in the Netherlands in October. So we're also really excited about that. This has been in the works for a number of years. I think the Netherlands got derailed with COVID, and now we're back. So everybody is really pumped to do what we wanted to do in 2020, which is have the World Cup in the Netherlands. So we're finally getting to do that. So not only will the winning team go, but our Sam Walton Fellow of the Years, they get to go as well as many other partners from Enactus United States. So planning is well underway for that, and our teams are, super excited to both compete at Expo as well as World Cup. So if you're going to be in the Netherlands in October, let us know. We would love to have you join us there as well. So those were our kind of general plugs. All of you are friends and family, so you know what Enactus does. What we're doing today is wanted to get started introducing our 3 panelists who are here today. Again, they're from our partner companies, and so we'll get to that in a minute. And our topic is global macro trends. And we want to hear from these experts in the field on how they use global macro trends to inform business decisions. Now, for our young entrepreneurs and people early in their careers, you're focused on, your needs assessment, coming up with a good product market fit, figuring out the marketing piece and shipping and all of that. But all of that fits into where we are, in the rest of the world. And so we wanted to hear from experts in this space as to how they take these trends into consideration when making business decisions. And hopefully this will be helpful for our young entrepreneurs as well as all of us, honestly, because all of us in our own way need to take these factors into consideration. So let's get started with introductions. I'd like to go around if each of the panelists can take about a minute. Just let us know who you are, what you do, and tell us a little bit about your business. So Amanda from Rich Products Corporation, hand it off to you.
Thanks, Zvia. Hi, so I'm Amanda Bunapane. My last name also means good bread, so it works out well that I work for a food company. I'm a senior manager here with our Research and Insights group. I've been with Rich's about 4 years. My background is as an anthropologist, and I've worked across a few industries, including healthcare, technology, and now food. A little bit about what I do is working, we've got a team that kind of keeps our eye on the future and sees what trends are coming up and what's going to impact our business. And then I work on the area where we kind of take those and run with those for our new product innovations and working on, innovation strategy. At Riches, we have, we're a food company, we're a global food company. We have quite a bit of our business within the US and Canada, but also across all other parts of the world. We also have a very broad product portfolio and serve historically a lot of food service customers. So we're kind of a brand behind the scenes. We do things like whipped toppings and pizza crusts and doughs and cookies. And we also do have a consumer branded part of our portfolio in frozen foods with brands that you might know, such as Farm Rich, CPAC, Maury's Seafood, For Real Shakes. And we also, even in places like K through 12, college and university settings, healthcare, and travel and leisure. So we're pretty broad across a little bit of everywhere in food.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Now let's hear from Doug.
Hello, Doug Hermanson from Kantar, which is a consultancy, especially in the areas of branding and retail. My unit is looking at retail, and shoppers. My background is in economics, and so within our unit, a key partner in developing our forecasts for retail and categories, and also just providing that overall macroeconomic point of view for the retail and shopper space. Most our clients are manufacturers, although we also work with quite a few of the big retailers and different credit financial companies, other research companies. But inherently, we do a lot of work in helping manufacturers understand the retail space.
Thank you so much, Doug. And next, we're going to hear from Amar. Except we're not actually hearing, are we? Doug, do you know Amar well enough you can just like do his bit?
He's on, I see.
Yeah, he's on.
I'm not sure if he's muted.
Do you guys hear him?
I don't.
Okay.
So Amar's on my team, which studies retail. He's a key part of understanding kind of global themes, retail research. He tracks our Canadian coverage as well as US, specifically in drug and personal care as well as home improvement, but he's one of our senior thought leaders. And so, he's a big part of bringing together like really broad themes that are also a key part of forecasting within our team.
Amazing. Let's see if we can hear it from the man himself, Amar. Yeah, no. I'm sorry. Maybe go out and come back a couple more times. We do want to hear from you. It's not you. So we'll figure this out. So thank you, Doug, for introducing Amar. And I just want to point out, we have a number of people here from a number of universities. We have somebody here from Nigeria, from Kwara State, and all of this is in the chat. So definitely use the chat during this conversation. We have a student and faculty from Jarvis Christian University. We've got Rocky Mountain College, as well as somebody joining from Kenya. I don't know what university, but hi, Simon. We also have Anne from DC, not sure if that's with the university or not. Pittsburgh in Southeast Kansas. We've got Jerry from Pilar College and probably other people. So definitely say hi in the chat. This is a good way to connect with each other. At the end, after I'm going to ask the panelists a few questions, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. So you guys can put questions in the chat. And then students and faculty will probably have some questions for you. We would love to hear how you guys take into consideration global macro trends when you're thinking about starting your project or developing it into a sustainable business. But let's start with the panelists. I'm going to start with Amanda. Like, tell us, what what do you do for your customers, or what do you do internally for your internal clients in terms of delivering insights on these global macro trends? How do you view your role? And you talked a little bit about it, but I know all of you have different perspectives on this and kind of different functions. So like, what makes you successful at what you do?
Yeah, thanks for that. It's interesting because we have a nice mix of things, and it always keeps keeps us on our toes. We've got, of course, a B2C audience as with our CPG areas, as well as B2B. So that means, going out to other food service operators. We do a lot to support our customers. We're really customer-centric organization. So we mine our insights as well as trends, and we'll definitely share them with our customers, work with them on new innovation areas. But then I'm glad you also brought up our internal customers, because it's really important for everybody within our organization. And we have a large organization too. So for everybody to be on the same page of what are the really important things to pay attention to. This timing is actually amazing, because next week we have our annual large event around for our USC region, at least, on our megatrend report out. And megatrends is kind of how we refer to the macro trends for our industry that we pay attention to. So we have that event once a year, and it's a lead-in into strategy planning. So as all the different areas of our business are going into their strat planning, it's, we pick this timing specifically to give a presentation, take them through a lot of the trends, what's going on with consumers, what's going on with food service operators, and what's happening around demand, so they can take that into account into the planning periods. But we also don't leave it at that. Some years ago, especially during COVID, we realized that once a year is not nearly enough. And, the market is constantly changing, constantly new things shifting, and having to kind of recalibrate our expectations. So we started doing that, our large presentation, updating it through the year, but more importantly from that, we also shifted to an always-on insights model. And we internally actually put together content once a week. During the height of COVID, we were actually doing it daily. It's an internal newsletter that goes around that compiles all the different insights that are going around related to macroeconomics, but also related to what's going on with consumer behavior, sentiment, consumer trust and brands, everything related to that, sharing it out broadly across our organization weekly. And within all of that, it's not just sharing the content, but we have sections within that says, how does this relate to riches? How does this relate to our business? How should we be thinking about it? And we also invite perspectives from those within the areas of our business that it's relevant for.
I love that. Always on. I mean, that totally makes sense. It's not a once a year thing. It's an always thing. And even last weekend, we had 2 bank failures. Like, that happened, and that wasn't true 1 week ago. So I totally understand that. I'm going to ask you a slightly different question, Doug. If you can just take a step back and go really high level, like, how would you even define a global macro trend? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, I would define them as something that connects across markets. Typically, these trends are, I guess, what would refer to as pretty fluid, right? That they move pretty quickly. In some cases, in terms of forecasting, and maybe also, as I said, thematic, where we just see a lot of commonalities from one market or another. It could also just be something that is, that is obviously global, that's affecting you domestically. It's not something you see, but it's underneath the surface. So I think it's really just that connection that doesn't always exist in every economic trend, but there are some out there that, whether you see it or not, or whether you're picking up it or not, it is affecting your business, and it's affecting the trends that are happening within the marketplace domestically.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm going to zoom in and out. We're going to go high level, then we're going to go specific. And so I'm going to be a little bit fluid here, but let's get into a specific example. So Amar, if we'll try this again. If you can talk to us about specific trends, like the application, this is like all high level that we've talked about with Doug right now. So what's the application of that with something specific that you think about?
Can you guys hear me now? Oh, perfect. Thank you. Oh, we're back on. Great, thank you very much. And sorry for the glitch this morning, guys. Hopefully the headphones will do the justice. So thank you. As Doug talked about the macro trends, what we do at retail, we look at how that's going to impact the supplier and retailer relationships. So Doug, thank you for introducing me. So in my role, what we do is, yes, I do look at health and wellness and home improvement and the entire Canadian retail format, and that pans across all different channels. But the one thing, the common denominator in all of them is finding efficiencies, especially in this day and age. So macro trends, how are they going to influence shopper decisions? Are they going to shop more in the discount channels, mass merchandisers, online versus supermarkets as they're trying to find better deals? So that's going to shift. And as it's shifting, how can retailers find more efficiencies with their supply chain models? How they can engage more shoppers in the store with optimizing their shopper trip. And at the same time, while they're doing that, managing that store remodels, digitalization, last mile fulfillment, and the essence at the end, optimizing that lifestyle integration with the brand. So at both at the retailer level, with the mainstream brands and the private labels. So what's role private labels going to play in shoppers' lives as they're looking for more discounts with different, macro trends. So all of those things we keep a close eye on, and something I call retail ecosystems. I feel the emergence of that is so important. Where the back end you're managing supply chains, at the back end you're managing your capex investments. The retailers are investing into stores. The back end efficiencies where it's easier for associates to pick up items and create that online fulfillment. The pickup and shop online order. So, and at the front end, how you're streamlining that shopping process by empowering shoppers with more payment options. You have Venmo, as you can see in the drug stores, Alipay, a platform for more tourist-focused shoppers, as well as leveraging the loyalty program to offer a more personalized experience. But in the essence, it goes all the way back to the emerging macro trends, the job market, the state of the economy where it is, and that's going to influence decisions in all those four aspects of investment, supply chain, streamlining, and all, as well as elevating experience in store.
That's a lot. And first of all, Tiffany, would you mind taking off the slides so we can all see each other better? Because I think we're probably not going to need the slide. Yeah, so those are real business decisions and investments that folks are making, and you do need to understand these macro trends in order to make the right decisions around that. So thanks for that. Let's go back to Amanda. Like, how do you even get this future information? Like, we only know what's now. We can't know, we're not in the future yet. So where do businesses get that information? Is it proprietary? Is it a tech tool? What's the role of AI? Is everybody kind of getting different information, or are there reliable sources that most businesses use? If you can sort of talk about that process, that would be great.
Yeah, so, the role of our team of looking at these things and trying to, like I said, we create these products that we put out within our organization. Part of the role of that is to try to control a little bit of like the onslaught and the fire hose of information everywhere, right? And to consolidate that into an organizational opinion around where things are headed, what we think our impact is going to be, what the impact is on our customers, on food service operators. And we do also, we take some of that and work on some channel growth workshops. I know that Amar was just talking about how different trends might impact one channel versus another. We're certainly looking across that all the time and making some adjustments. So some things like that we'll do internally and work through knowing our assumptions and knowing what's going on our customer basis. Like, for example, we know about huge labor issues and turnover, and we're watching how that happens in different areas from our customers. So some of it is our internal knowledge and what we learn from our customers, but we also have a lot of other sources. We work with a lot of partners. Kantar is included as one of them. We're a client of theirs, and we also have other other companies that we work directly with and get perspectives that we bring together. They all fill a little bit of a different role in our, kind of a puzzle of general knowledge and insights. We also work with Trend Hunter. They publish emerging trends across industries and worldwide. We work with Global Data, who works, they do quite a bit outside of the US. Data Essential, who's a little bit more food focused than others, and they look at menu trends and can talk about flavors, what's going on menus. They use a lot of AI in their analysis to kind of bring it all together, analyze like what sorts of things are selling where, and Cleveland Research as well. But aside from that, we're keeping a constant eye on these on trade publications too. And I think, there's some of these routes that are very accessible because of that. And, we've got a budget for our partners that we work with. However, there's no need for, anybody can access a lot of these things like trade publications, get on e-newsletter lists. We use ones that are very specific to our industry, like National Restaurant Association, Nation's Restaurant News, Supermarket News, but also like Ipsos and Pew Research. We look at dunnhumby. Placer AI has, tons of location and traffic information. Some of it you pay for, and they've got different tier levels, but they have a lot of information just widely accessible and available. And, sometimes there might also just be, freebie resources available through any of these companies as well as manufacturers and suppliers who work in the industry that you're interested in. I encourage anybody to visit those sites, see if they have a resources section, and they'll probably be sharing and publishing some things of their own. Aside from that, you can find podcasts out there. And keep in mind library databases. I still rely on some of my academic sources as well, where you have access to great databases like IBIS World, for example, that can give you great, up to moment forecasts, SWOT analysis. Mergent, who used to be Hoover's and Dun & Bradstreet, is on a lot of library databases, as is Gartner. And now, if you want to talk about AI, ChatGPT, right? It's, I'm sure everybody's playing around with that as a tool right now. We are, of course, not using it for end all be all, but it kind of helps to generate some ideas and thought starters and things that you might not catch otherwise to look into.
This is so helpful, and it's making me think we need to put together a resource library of free places to go for information, associations, IBIS, like all of those are great. So I may hit the three of you panelists up after this call and pull that for our, community, because that's really helpful, because there is an art to finding the information. We're all flooded with information all the time, and it's not all going to be the right information. So even figuring out what information to rely on, that's an art in itself, is what it sounds like. And some of it you collect internally based on data that you're seeing, and some of it is from other sources. That's great to hear. Doug, if you could share some themes that your team is thinking about, maybe we can focus on like the retail macro outlook. We would love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll cover a couple of them, and I'll actually pass it to Mar some of them because he's really great at doing that, as he mentioned, with ecosystems. From a macro perspective, our big theme for 2023 is new macro reality, which is, we're coming off 2 to 3 years of what I describe as surreal, right? A lot of what was happening was, some of it was overdone, as we're seeing market backlash. Some of we're dealing with the ramifications of different policies, as well as just the health changes. And so this new environment is just a reality we're all having to face when it comes to high inflation, all the disconnect that's going on with labor scarcity. At the same time, we're seeing layoffs. So that's kind of my macro theme for this year, is really saying, what does, maybe we're not, hard to say, out of the pandemic, but what does this new reality mean as we emerge from some of the distortions over the previous 2 years? We also, combining with that, is on our shopper team is shopper reset. And that's in line with that idea that shoppers previously were very much focused on whether it's efficiency or convenience, because it was get in and out of the store, or I had a lot of money on hand because I had high savings from the pandemic, job market's bouncing back in 2022. So I didn't have to make decisions between A and B. I could buy both. Well, now the shopper reset is getting back to some of that value-based behaviors. May not be the same as pre-pandemic. It certainly has a flavor influenced by that, but that's kind of this reset shoppers are having to make and wanting to make to make sure their budgets are focused on what they really want, as well as it fits within this kind of inflationary environment. Amar, do you have some thoughts on the others we're looking at?
Yeah, so absolutely. So of the retail teams that we have for this year, Doug talked about the first two with the macroeconomics realities and the shopper reset. The one thing we're looking at is managing contradictions. So, you know, on one side, you have the shopper that is really looking for good values and deals. At the other hand, you have retailers who are investing in their retailer ecosystems. And given inflation was so high, we see growth across most channels. If you guys been tracking home improvement, I mean, they just had a fairy tale run during the pandemic, double-digit growth. My goodness, like, you know, who would know that people just indulge in all sort of home improvement projects. So the way they're positioning themselves and the merchandising mix that you see now at Lowe's and Home Depot is just beyond just home hardware and home improvement products. You know, you'll find water bottles, you find refreshments, even chips and snacks. So it's just a diversity of assortments across the board. But the one thing we're advising our clients is just, you know, go back to the basics of retailing. They're still true. You got to have the product availability. You got to have a good presence, good logistical network, as well as paying attention to your trade promotion. So that's one. And then when we talk about retail in 2023 or beyond, you have to look into ESG. You know, it's not about environmentalism. It's not about sustainability. It goes beyond that. When you talk about ESG, it's more inclusivity. You got to be looking at governance. That's a big part of it. Now, it's not in the retailers or brands' goodwill they're going to do participate in sustainable initiatives. They are mandated to do that by their governments, right? So that's another angle you got to look at. So the 3 points: you get consumer, how they want it. You know, Gen Z consumers, oh my. They demand you to espouse their values, which is entrenched in social activism and environmentalism. Now the cost of getting it wrong is less than not taking action. So, you know, so if they don't see you being overtly communicating your stance on social justice issues and environmental issues, they will Uber you out of the conservation set, right? So they're super connected digitally, and the Gen Zs is one cohort. They exhibit the same behavior no matter where you look at. The Gen Zs of the UK, the US, you know, India, China, they all behave the same way because they're so digitally connected. They've not known the world that did not have the internet. That's crazy it may sound for many of us, but that is the reality for them. So their behavior is important because they're going to be the emerging subgroup that is going to, you know, emerge and making primary purchasing decisions moving forward. So it's important for brands to take notice of that. And then, ESG is important specifically amongst the Gen Zs, but across the board, really. You know, the boomers or the matures, they're still espoused to Americana or Canadiana. They want to see things made locally. And local is important, but made in the USA is important for them as well. So there are some nuances that you have to pay attention to. And you know, I love that Amanda was talking about localization with Placer AI. So that's one tool that allows you to see local trends at the store level, not the region. So you can design planograms now at the store level, and that you're going to see more of that moving forward. So that's all. Managing contradictions. There are cost pressures, but also the shopper is now more aware. They demand more from the retailers, and how you're going to bridge that gap while staying efficient is important. And being more environmentally ESG compatible. And then we look into something, digital playground. So, you know, the emergence of different online and the Internet of Home technologies. So online is not about just ordering online and getting fulfilled. It's the whole ecosystem that comes with it now, and that's expanding. So you had buy online, pick up in store, curbside pickups. You have 3P vendors such as Instacart, DoorDash, fulfilling your grocery orders. Uber Eats doing that too. But now think about drones in remote areas, especially when it comes to prescription drugs, right? That's one trend that's gonna, I wouldn't say it's gonna expand too aggressively, even though Amazon, different technologies and Walmart are investing into it. There's still a liability concern. You don't want to see drone crashing into people's backyards, and that's a big, lawsuit waiting for you. So there's still need to be more refinement in that technology when it comes to door, but those are the things that you got to be looking into, different fulfillment models. And lastly, something that I'm very near and dear to me is share of life. So retailing is not about, and if I may take a couple of minutes here to explain where I'm getting to very, very briefly. So before the pandemic, you're looking at 4 pillars. The way we define shopper experience at Kantar, we call it the 4 S's of shopper experience. So someone to ask you, what is shopper experience, right? So there are 4 ways you can look at it. So if you think about the left side and the right side of the brain, so the left side is more functional, right is more emotional. So you have the functional attributes such as steering, which used to be product availability before the pandemic. You have the product available, the SKUs you want there, you're good. Not anymore. You got to be disruptive. You got to catch the shopper in their tracks and make sure you catch them before they catch you. So where you curate yourselves in stores, it's not about those, sea of color brand blocks or product blocks and category blocks. You got to be more disruptive. So you see, especially in the drug channel, you see those end caps where it's stress management. You see products from different categories, different brands all coming together into one end cap. So sleep management, you find a pillow, you find aromatherapy oils, you find a melatonin, stress busters and massage guns and all the stuff in one place, right? So this is the new way of curating your products and planogram developing. So solution-based merchandising. And the second is it's from the right side of the brain, is emotional, is sensory. So your touch points, you go into the store, the theatrics of the store, how they project lights of different merchandising items, right? So that evokes more emotive response, the warmth, right? And that is going to be the forefront now more so than ever. So that comes in the shopper experience. And then you have the shopper engagement when it gets to streamlining it. So sensory streamlining is the resources and the digital integration of your product, QR codes, all those things where shopper can tap into to bring your product to life a little bit more, right? And lastly is how you stimulate shoppers, right? So through advanced analytics, by stopping them in their tracks with personalized promotions and offering more checkout resources, self-checkout, and how you streamline that. So all those things are essentially there to optimize your share of life. So, share of wallet is you get them to spend more, but share of life, you're integrating loyalty programs, all those different touch points, keeping shoppers engaged within your ecosystem. Prime is one great example of that. Walmart Plus, again, you can buy products, you can watch, you can stream content, and you can participate. That's the reason why Walmart wanted to invest into TikTok and want to acquire it until the government intervened. I don't know how that deal's going to go, but the point is, keep shoppers engaged, capture greater share of life, provide them resources, and with that, you can increase conversion. And if you were to take a case study for that, would be Alibaba's 88 loyalty program in China. Happy to talk about later on, but I want to pass it back to Zvia. I hope this answers a lot, but happy to explore it further if you guys want it.
Yeah, I love share of life. I just put that in the chat so we all remember it. And we'll all start keeping our eyes out for that. And I think we all know exactly what you're talking about, even if we don't know that term. No, thank you for all of that. I want to open it up to see, I have so many more questions, like I could sit with you guys for another 2 hours, but we're probably not going to do that. Let's open it up. If anybody wants to go off mute and ask a question, or you can also feel free to put it in the chat. Students, we would love to hear from you. Should I cold call?
This is Robin. I'm the president and CEO of Enactus. It's wonderful to be with all of you today. Thanks to everyone who's joining. I'm curious around, we've got these global macro trends that obviously, and so much of the work Amar and Doug, that you do really is seems to be about the broader commercial sector. And I'm curious around how you see these playing out specifically, or what advice you might give to social entrepreneurs around what pieces of this should they be most paying attention to? Where are there opportunities for these enterprises that are specifically driven by their social and environmental impact that might be different perhaps than the large multinational commercial sector?
Yeah, it's a really good question for today. I'll pass over to Mara a second. I definitely think partnerships are huge, right? Being an entrepreneur, everything we're talking about, it is getting so big, everything from gathering insights to working across retailers and share of life. So I actually work in a co-working space where it's all entrepreneurs, and they all live off each other as far as different skill sets, everything from PR to marketing to data analytics. And so this is why Enactus is a great community, but you have to embrace that as an entrepreneur, because the world is it's just gotten so much more complex, and it's local, but that locality gets global, right? We know with the supply chain, all of a sudden your local product is no longer available in that market that you've catered it to. So that's the advice I would get across these trends is you really got to find partnerships and lean on other entrepreneurs and be collaborative. Seek out people that don't have your skill set in order to use as a resource, and then offer up something that you are able to do. That's where a lot of the kind of world's going when you look how connected we are.
Absolutely, and that's great. And I'm just going to build on that from a retailer perspective. The one thing we're seeing a lot in the retail world is technology as an enabler and an equalizer as well. We see a lot of brands, both mainstream brands, private label brands, and emerging brands. The way they're interacting and harnessing technology, whether it's AI or machine learning, even blockchain to some extent, by driving that localization messaging and to be more transparent with their shoppers of how they source products. And that cred is going to earn a lot of saliency in the category. So it's all to drive a business, to build a brand, really, you got to be meaningful. The way we look at Kantar, really, with our philosophy in brand building is you got to be meaningful, you got to be salient, and you got to be differentiated, right? So, if you're coming with a product, it's got to meet needs, and it's a brand that you love, right? So those two factors, the components will drive your meaningfulness. And then when you look at trend setting and being unique, that's important, because you're going to break away yourself from clutter and just offer something new. And lastly, you're going to be salient. Saliency is being known for an attribute that is important to shoppers. So think about Kleenex. When you think about Kleenex, the first thing that comes to your mind is this is something they can use to manage your conditions in the cold, or just a napkin that's offered more convenience. Another good example would be if I were to ask you a car brand. Let's just do a poll, actually, just keep people engaged a little bit. So type in a brand of car that you think is the safest vehicle on the road. What's the first brand that comes to mind? And let's see what the audience says. The safest car on the road. All right. And I see Toyota, Mercedes. Oh, that's interesting. Mercedes, yeah. Volvo. I see a lot of Volvos in there. Okay, great. Yep. So Volvo, if you look into our tracking studies, the syndicated studies, Volvo comes up all the time because their messaging from day one is about safety. Yes, Toyotas and Subarus, they have earned those credentials overall with the reliability. But Volvo is the one that, if you're to index to the average, it's just over-indexes by a lot. And that's the saliency that they have invested in over the time. So being consistent is important. Find your niche. As an entrepreneur, you got to spend some time to find where your real market is, and that's okay to experiment. But once you have an idea, you finance it, and make sure you play in the local area, you support your brand, stay true to your messaging, make sure you're laser focused on it. But at the same time, engage in different marketing tools and go away from your traditional tools of the primary and secondary point of interaction, which is TV and online as they're given. But think about Facebook, social media touch points. Those are just getting so much more importance now in conversion, and social commerce is such an important space for brands and new startups to look into, and that's going to have its worth and goal over time. So those are some of the things I would really encourage new entrepreneurs and existing ones to just look into different AI sources as well as social commerce sources to drive their brand, and don't shy away in making those investments.
If it's okay, I could jump in on this as well, because I think, we work from within a corporate perspective with a business that is trying to find new products and innovate on them. We have a bit of an approach of how we look at this. And I work directly in our innovation space. And we also do, aside from all the trends and the outside information that we collect, we do a lot of our own proprietary research too. And we'll dig into have consumer white space areas, and how we look at those is kind of where there's current tensions today. So we have actually a little bit of a wheel model that's like the consumer, purchase drivers, a little bit about value equation with things like convenience, sensory experiences, price, sustainability, and DEI, experiences, safety, holistic wellness, all these different elements. What we're finding more and more, as Amar was speaking to, is younger generations are less and less willing and accepting of trade-offs between those, right? They want to have multi solves, and that's what really brings value. So we tend to look at that. Where are those areas of tension? And a lot of times, if you look at, sustainability and price, a lot of times those are at odds, right? It's very hard to get, whether it's us thinking about sustainable sourced ingredients or more sustainable packaging, to do that and roll it out to consumers. A lot of the times it involves a higher price point, and you've got to sacrifice something else, and it might also have an impact on the taste and the flavor. I think one good example of how there's a solve for that is, with Amazon, and how they were looking at, the serving up convenience with their Prime delivery options, but then also, this desire for consumers wanting more and more sustainability. And they started giving more, enticing offers to delay your orders and get a $1 digital credit to get something else in like a non-physical form, and starting to have these other incentive programs that work for that. So I think, in entrepreneurial mindset, you're kind of thinking about like, what are the problems to be solved, and where are those existing tensions in the system? And if you want to take a social impact perspective, definitely focusing on those areas around ESG, sustainability, all those kind of related topics, because there's plenty of tensions involved with that.
Super helpful. I'm going to ask again if any of the students or teams or faculty have anything to add about your approach to considering all of this information, because in the end, sometimes you're just focused on getting your business off the ground, and you can't, process all of this information. Maybe you're a small team, resource constrained, what have you. So what are your thoughts on filtering all of this and applying it to the work you're doing? Taking it all in. Okay, well, let's do some closing thoughts. If young entrepreneurs are going to take one thing away, because we've really talked about a lot of things, and so sometimes it's easier for our brain to just kind of have one piece of learning. I would love to do a round of each of you. Like, what one thing would you say that people can apply today in their approach to business, or to using business for good, or social entrepreneurship, however you want to frame it? What is one takeaway that they can apply today? May as well start with you, Amanda, because you started the whole, the beginning. You're the A. So
alphabetically, it makes sense, right? Yeah, I would say, there's one thing that we didn't talk about that I think is a broad, underlying theme with a lot of this too, of thinking about the difference between trends and fads. And, I've seen a little bit of that in the comments about, knowing what to pay attention to. And I think it's, you've got to look at it like a puzzle and take in multiple different sources and be thinking of this in a lot of different ways, collaborate with others on these thoughts, but also thinking about what trends can inform your future business endeavors that have some sort of underlying shift in consumer values. Like something else has to be going on. That's a shift in like how people are thinking, behaving, you know, interacting with brands, thinking about that, you know, what's going on underneath the surface, you know, that iceberg metaphor, right? You only see the little bit of a tip of it, and then you've got all this other human behavior going on. So I'm sorry, that was probably more than one closing thought.
No, that's great. That's great. And Doug?
Yeah, I'll build off a little bit what Amanda said, which is my biggest advice I give the team. I have kind of 5 components of forecasting, but one, and just thinking about macro in general, is be parsimonious, which the direct definition is be stingy with what you're thinking about. The reality is there's a lot of trends that are only driven by 3 or 5 factors. And mentally, I think that's how we need to think about something like more technical or direct forecasting. A lot of what we talked about is also essential, and that gets back to the point of, I think I'm sure in Amanda's team and our team, you have specialization so that you can focus on kind of what those trends are and putting them together, because you can get lost in all the resources that are out there, all the data. I mean, the amount of survey data that's out, I mean, it's every headline, right? But at some point you have to focus on what matters most. And I think the advice Amanda and Amara has given is great, you know, advice on what matters most for branding. But also from a data and insights perspective, at least prioritize and say, these are the 3 to 5 things globally or macro mean the most to my business. I know that's like the core of what's going to drive trends. And then you maybe tier it down to 2 or 3. And if you can, you have a team that is able to research that and focus on what things like what's happening in the store or what's happening with the shopper, and then having a system you can bring that together. But for me, I always say, if you're just trying to focus on one trend, at some point you've got to prioritize. And specifically, I usually say about 3 to 5 things that you think really matter most.
Amar?
Absolutely. No, Doug, that's great. And I'm going to build on what Doug said, what Doug suggested. So I would say being authentic is important in this day and age, especially across all shopper groups, really. So by authentic, I mean, you know, it's not when you introduce green products or ESG focused products, which is becoming more or less a requirement. Be authentic in your messaging. It's not about, it shouldn't come off as, you know, greenwashing or just making a case that you're just pushing the green agenda. It has to come from the core, from your mission statement all the way, the essence of the product, right? And I think that's where a true successful brand in 2020, in the latter half of this decade and in the future is going to be successful is the inherent messaging, positioning, and the execution of a brand strategy from the core of the product level and messaging has to be authentic. So it has to be socially responsible, it has to be environmentally responsible, as well as the ways executed in the programs that you participate in. It has to be authentic. And staying true to my retailer roots, for $19.99, we can put another option, which I think is closely related to what was said. Be authentic and be bold, right? So there's another freebie. I'll give you two themes. Being bold is important. You've done your research. You know exactly what area you're going to be in, and then just be bold with that messaging. You know, and an example is what Nike did with the NFL, Copernicus, with their endorsement for the athlete, even though he was getting a lot of heat, but they knew he was standing up for something that was important to a large group of population, is the right thing to do. So being right in the situation is also important. So if that's what the brand believes in, just stay authentic and be bold with the messaging. And I think those are 2 things that can really earn you a lot of credit from your shoppers.
Okay, this was so much fun for me. I hope it was for everyone else as well. I feel like we got really high level, put a lot of thoughts on our whiteboard in our brain, and then we distilled it down to a few little pearls that we can take away with us. So I hope all of you feel that way as well. And for everybody on the call, go ahead and follow Amar, Doug, and Amanda on LinkedIn. Connect with the people that you see here in the room. I'm going to turn it over to Marty in a minute, but we are so grateful for partners like Riches and Kantar. Not only are you guys like with us for the long haul, but we get these opportunities to learn from individuals at the company. And so, you know, you're not just kind of one big company, you each bring the, you know, these different perspectives. And so for me, it's helpful. I think for our broader community, it's also helpful. So we're really grateful for all of you. And I wanted to turn it over to Marty.
Thanks, Z. I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for attending today's call. And a special thanks to the three panelists. We're grateful for your time and support of Enactus and our mission of a better, more sustainable world. I'd also like to take a moment just to thank Rich Products Corporation. They are the sponsor of the Enactus Forum series. Rich has been a proud partner for over 24 years and committed to continuing that partnership well into the future. Supporting next-gen leaders has never been more important and the Enactus mission has never been more critical. And Rich shares and holds our values of integrity, passion, innovation, and collaboration. So just on behalf of Rich Products and Jim Motos, the Senior Vice President of Rich, and of course, our panelists from Rich's today, Amanda, thank you all for attending today's Enactus Forum.